would do it for me. Sometimes I'd switch his name around to like King, which is Kaleb backwards, so to throw my friends off at times. But I went on and I would write these stories for a little while, and I'd keep on going, and then I'd write castle stories, and I'd write outer space stories, and I just keep on writing, and pretty soon I was writing like 2 pages a day, and I was writing 3 pages a day. I was doing more than what my mom told me I had to do. Then I was starting to spend hours and hours writing these stories as I got more and more into them and started changing things up and adding plot lines, that my mom had to tell me that I had to stop writing or else I'd be in trouble. She started putting time limits on me because I was getting into it. And I started to realize that whenever I was writing these stories, I could do pretty much whatever I wanted. I could use my imagination, and I could make up any story that came to mind and write it down, and I could give it to my friends and let my friends enjoy it as well. So I did that for a long time. I would write on these stories, and I invented worlds, and I'd make up these characters, and some of these characters I can literally still remember them today, all the stuff that I made up going along. And I did that, and I just started getting into writing, and I wrote for many years. And then on March 3rd of 2003, I was 14 years old. I was lying in bed, and I was staring at the ceiling, and I was thinking of a completely different story that I was working on. And all of a sudden, I imagined this boy and a banker sitting on a rooftop. And it was a very weird image. I don't know where it came from. I have no clue what inspired it. But all of a sudden, this idea came. And whenever I was thinking about this idea, all these questions came with it. Like, why is this boy and this banker on this rooftop at night? And why is this burglar coming? Why are they waiting for this burglar? And this image just struck me, and so I had to jump out of bed, and I ran over to my writing desk, and I started scribbling it down, like the boy and the banker on the rooftop waiting for the burglar. And as I went along, I had to answer those questions. And I started to find out these things. Like I found out that the boy had these strange magic powers. And I found out that the burglar wasn't really a burglar, it was actually this creature that was coming to kidnap the boy. And I realized that the boy's mother had been this magic criminal, and she'd done this gigantic crime, and they were trying to get him to complete it. And I also knew that the boy's name was Bran Hambrick. And that original scene of the boy and the banker on the roof is actually still in the first chapter of the novel today. And so I wrote on the book for a long time. It took me about 5 years. I wrote about 600 pages in the first 6 months, and then I spent the next 5 years editing, and I'd edit. And I'm a perfectionist, so it was never quite right. It's still never right. I can still go through this book in pencil and change things up. But I wrote on it for about 6 years, and then I found a literary agent, and I got it published. And I never once imagined, back whenever I was 14 years old, that something like that would happen, that it might actually one day end up as a little novel, and I'd end up in this big bookstore talking to you people. So it's just a wonderful thing how it happened, where I went from writing inside of this little notebook, where my mom had to make me do it every day, to writing stories all the time now. I've been writing. I wrote in airplanes yesterday. I wrote in hotel rooms. I just write everywhere.